Today we are continuing what we began in our previous talk with the introduction to the 37 enlightenment factors. We begin with the Four Foundations of Mindfulness. Sattaro Satipatthana. Four Satipatthanas. Sati is mindfulness, awareness, or the memory, the ability to remember. Now, this is something we are born with. We have this ability to be aware, to be mindful. And with that ability, we can remember. We can bring back the memories of the past in a variant degrees. Now, if we are to remember our past, generally at the most we can remember up to the age of 4. It is the general for many of us. But of course, there are special cases. People can remember even beyond the age 4. And this inherent ability of remembering could be developed, could be sharpened with the practice of mindfulness. So, Buddha is not teaching us to adopt something we don't have. Sati or awareness is something we already have. Now in Abhidhamma, there are mental factors. Among those mental factors, there are universal mental factors. There are mental factors which all of the living beings contain, possess, or inherited with their very beginning of the life, with their birth. Two of those universal mental factors are the one-pointedness of the mind and the ability to reflect, ability to remember, manasikara, ability to contemplate. Now these two factors are generally contained in this word sati. So sati is to be mindful, to be aware, or remembering. In meditation, when this sati is applied, it means to be mindful for the present moment. Life doesn't give many moments to live. Life provides us one singular moment at a time. Moment after moment, this life flows on. The body exits in this very moment. And the next moment comes. Then the next moment. Moment after moment, this life exits. So bring this mind to this absolute present moment Where the life exits is the function of satipatthana, is the function of sati, or the mindfulness, development of mindfulness. To be absolutely aware, with no disturbances, interruptions from the past memories or future dreams, but to be completely exist together with the body in the present moment. And it is absolutely becoming natural, because body exists in the present moment. Body cannot exist past or future. And the problem is with the mind. Mind doesn't exist with the body. It is either hidden, submerged in the past memories, or watching the dreams of the future. Mind is not experiencing the present moment as it is. So it is a problem with the mind. Mind doesn't know how to be natural, how to flow with the body, how to move with the body, how to coexist with the body. Sati is to bring back this abnormal behavior of the mind to be normal, to be natural, to coexist, live together with the body in this very present moment. Then comes the patthāna, establishment, foundation of the mind, of that awareness. So satipatthana is a compound term which brings the meaning of establishing mindfulness, establishing awareness. Establish where? For what? For the reason of what we are establishing this mindfulness. It is for the sheer purpose of achieving, realizing the liberation from this continuous process of birth and death, from this prison of saṃsāric, from this prison called the body. To be liberated out of this prison, we establish this mindfulness, satipatthana. That is the sole purpose. That is the main purpose. And that establishment is not to happen in a random choice, in an arbitrary manner, but in a well-organized system, well-organized order is introduced by Buddha for this satipatthana. This order is, in the general sense, from the body to the mental factors. There are 4 stages: the body, the feelings, mind, and the factors of the mind. Easy to remember. Now these 4 have been introduced in Maha Satipatthana Sutta in Digha Nikaya and Satipatthana Sutta number 10 in Majjhima Nikaya. They introduced these 4 as Kāyānupassanā satipatthāna. Kāyānupassanā. Passana, observing, witnessing, seeing. Anu, accordingly. Kaya, the form, the body. In the body, feelings arise, sensations arise. Vedana, anupassana, vedana anupassana. Passana, observing. Anu, accordingly. Vedana, the sensations that arise in the body. The feelings that arise in the body. Other than the hair, teeth, nail, and the bone structure of this body, throughout this body, at every single moment, there is a sensation. But our mind is not trained to feel those sensations. We feel only the gross, rough, strong kind of feelings, not the subtle ones. So the second step is to develop that mind in the sense of refining it, to see, to observe these feelings, all sorts of feelings that arise in the body. Then comes the third one, chitta anupassana, chittanupassana. Passana, observing. Anu, accordingly. Chitta, the consciousness, the contents of the mind. What kinds of consciousness is formed in accordance to the situations. As the situation changes, consciousness changes. We don't see it. We don't observe it. It is happening within us. Observing that consciousness as it changes. Then comes the Dhammanupassana. Dhamma is here mental factors, purities and impurities, based on the thoughts, emotions, negative and positive. These thoughts, mental factors, contents of the mind is the last one to observe. So establishing the mindfulness on the body, the form, then the feelings, sensations, then the mind itself, and finally to the contents of the mind. You can see from the gross, most obvious, tangible level is the beginning point, which is the easiest one. And from that level, it descends to the subtle and subtle-most, most oblivious, intangible, invisible levels of life. All these are parts of life. All these four objects that we place, that we establish our awareness, are parts of our life, contents of the life. These four areas completely cover up the whole process called the movement of the life. This fathom-long body and all its contents are to be understood as they really are with this type of meditation. So the understanding our own reality is the path, is the technique, is the method for our own liberation. So body is the prison, body is the bondage. And understand in this bondage, understand in this prison analytically is the path to liberation. So body is at the same time the prison and the liberation. Prison as long as we don't understand. Liberation as we understand. Prison as long as we look at this based on ignorance. Liberation as we start seeing this with wisdom. Loka Vidu we call Buddha, knower of world. It is not about the geographical planet is that he called the Loka. Loka is this body. And the arising of it, the persistence, existence of it, and the decay of it. In all these four areas, the body, the feeling, mind, and the contents of the mind. Kāya, Vedana, Chitta, Dhamma. As they arise, exist, and vanish, the whole process is well observed, well witnessed, and well understood. And that understanding itself led him to get rid of it, led him to be liberated from it. So he is Lokavidu. This is a miniature world. What happens to us happens to the entire universe in a larger scale. What happens in the larger scale outside world happens to us in a minor scale within us. So if you understand yourself, means you understand everything else. No need to turn every stone in all over the world to understand the world. What you have to understand is come back home, come back to yourself. Understand, comprehend yourself as you are, not as you are not. That understanding occurs on these four stages of Satipatthana. That understanding is the goal of this establishment of mindfulness, nothing else. And it is always, you have to develop this with what you have. As I said before, you have a certain level of awareness. Sati is already what you have. In the meditation, you begin from where you already are. That natural, that inherited awareness is what you are sharpening, what you are cultivating and developing, not something you borrow from outside. You begin with the most obvious level. That obvious is your body. And Buddha has presented us 14 ways, 14 ways, methods of observing this body in an analytical method. You can select either of them. There is no mandate. It is not mandatory for someone to practice all these 14 methods. One of them is suffice, is enough. As you apply one of these techniques, goal is a singular one. 14 roads are there to the same goal. Yeah. Let's have a look on those 14 methods. That one is to practice on the establishment of awareness on body, on Kāya. Now, let me explain a bit about this Kāyānupassanā. Anupassana, observing accordingly. Kāya. Kāya has two definitions. One is a heap or an aggregate. This body is an aggregate of senses. 5 senses are there. It is an aggregate, collection, a heap. It is an aggregate of elements. It is an aggregate of physical organs. It is an aggregate of many things. The second definition, Kāya is the birthplace. The birthplace of suffering, birthplace of pleasure, the birthplace for hair, nail, skin, which is always changing and continuing, the birthplace for desire, the birthplace for attachment, the birthplace for possessions, ownership, the birthplace for the continuous process of suffering, misery. All the misery in the world exists for us because of this body, because of this physical body. It is moving from misery to misery when we are moving from one body to another. Because as soon as the body arises, physicality arises, suffering arises. The pleasure, joy, happiness, bliss, they are just myths that we are following. Suffering is the reality that with the body that arises. So, body is Kāya. It has these two definitions because it is an aggregate, a collection, because it is a birthplace for misery. So, in these two senses, it means Kāya. Now, analytical observation on this body is the key in one way to get rid of the attachment to the body and to create a certain kind of samvega, a sense of urgency for our liberation. Because as you are to observe this body analytically, separately, There is nothing beautiful in it. Only the ugliness in it. When they are together, when they are in a heap, in a collection, it looks so beautiful. But when you separate them, there's nothing beauty in it. Only the ugliness, only the dirtiness, something to abhor, something to discard. There is nothing beauty in it. That is the ugly truth in the body. So Buddha's instruction is, as the beginning point of the development of Satipatthana, when you start observing your own physical body, he presented a variety of techniques. In one way to understand the body as it is, in another way to get rid of the strong, unnecessary attachment to this body, and to create a certain kind of urgency within you. We call it pasada sangvega. Actually, sangvega in Sinhala, when it is translated, it means a kind of a miserable feeling, unhappy feeling. There is nothing to do with unhappiness here. Sangvega is a sense of urgency within you to practice hard, to practice persistently, deliberately, to be liberated from this heap of misery. That is the Sangvega. So let's look at these 14 analytical methods to be utilized as meditation objects to observe the Kāyānupassanā, observe the body as it is accordingly. First one is mindfulness of breathing, ānāpānasati. Ānāpānasati, mindfulness of breathing. Now, this is the most popular practice, not only just Buddhism, but also in many other religions. They teach how to concentrate on this incoming and outgoing breathing. Now, what is the difference in Buddhism? Because in Ānāpānasati, as a vipassana practice, as part of the Kāyānupassanā, it is different to the rest of the world, to the methods that they have applied. Here, sati, awareness, āna incoming, apāna going out. That is how this word is created. It is a compound. Āna incoming, apāna going out, ānāpāna. This incoming and going out breath is bound to touch somewhere, either at the nostrils, below the nostrils, or inside the nose. Somewhere that breathing bound to touch. Of course, if somebody is not familiar with this technique, he better practice with intentional breathings, intentional strong breathings for some time, until he catch this place where your breathing is obviously touch when it is going in and coming out. After that, become a doorkeeper, become a security guard, become a guard who is coming in and going out the breathing. His job is not to control what is coming in and going out, but he is ever mindful. He is constantly mindful of who is coming in and who is going out. Never controls them, never changes them, never judges them, but he understands as they are. In Ānapānasati, when the awareness is established on this incoming and outgoing breathing, it is not any control is added here. Any judgment is not added, but to be aware when it is coming in. From which nostril that breath is coming in, left or right. Usually it always use either left or right. Most of the times that breath is using a one hole in our nose, not the both. Only occasionally both the nostrils are utilized to breathe. So he sees, okay, from left nostrils it is coming in. And he touches here, went in all the way to the belly button, all the way to the stomach. It went in and it comes out. Continuously watching this subtle motion, subtle process of breathing coming in and going out. This is kind of a boring and a monotonous thing. Yeah, that's why many people, as they begin, they give up also. It's not easy, but a constant and continuous effort. As time passes by, this wild animal within us starts taming. It starts getting adopted to this new situation where the body is tranquil, body is still, where the mind is not function, only the awareness is there. You cannot think with the breathing. You can be just aware of it. You can be just a watcher, not a thinker. Thinking carries you from the present to past or future, to the present moment. At the present moment, you can only be aware. You cannot think. If you think, you are gone from present moment. So mind will struggle. Mind will not like it. It will fight back. It is up to you to surrender to the fight of the mind or to fight with mind and continue to practice. It is up to you. But if you continue to practice, you will find this breathing has so much of miraculous effect on us. This breathing connects you to the world. This breathing connects world to you. This breathing connects you and your emotions. Emotions are hard to handle. When the world is changing, we react to the change of the world with emotions. Then what happens? We suffer. For example, when you get angry, can you see that anger? Can you witness that anger within you? Can you be open eyes to that anger? Most of the time we are blind to that anger. We don't see the anger coming in and dominating us, blinding us, and anger making us doing things, saying stuff that we are bound to regret later. We don't see the anger comes in and dominate us because it is not something easy to see. Emotions overwhelms us, but we can see the breathing. If you have this knack of observing the breathing, such a person immediately understand that his breathing has changed. Breathing has changed. I am not breathing normally. My breathing is abnormal now. That's what he sees. When his breathing is abnormal, something is wrong with him. Something is not right. What does he do? He observes that breathing, abnormal breathing, until it becomes normal. When it becomes normal, he knows now it is okay. Now it is time to say things, do things. Now I am not wrong within me. I am correct. I am okay within. So, though you cannot see the incoming of your emotions, you can see the breathing. It is very obvious for somebody who is a constant practitioner on this touch of the breath. Of course, it continues after that. It continues until your liberation from all the sufferings. As you got liberated from the misery which is bound to be created by these emotions, you can be liberated from all sufferings in the same process. Just continue to practice. All the perfect Buddhas, Sambuddhas in the world got liberated. Their enlightenment was based on this ānapānasati. Number of thousands of his followers, enlightened arahants, in the background of their enlightenment was this ānapānasati. Thousands of Pacceka Buddhas, private Buddhas, they got enlightened based on this ānapānasati. So Kāyānupassanā, the number one, Kāyānupassanā, observing accordingly the physicality is observe the breathing of it. Ānapānasati. Ana, the incoming. Apana, outgoing. Incoming and outgoing, that is breathing. Sati, establish awareness on it. That's the first one. The second one is contemplation of the four postures. Iriyapatha. Four postures. When you are sitting, when you are standing, when you are walking, when you are lying down. Observe that posture. as you are sitting, observe this posture. The way your feet are, the way your hands are, the way your body is established. Observe that posture. It is so easy, not that difficult. It is not even difficult as observing the breathing. Observing these postures as they are. The most famous out of these Iriyapata meditation, mindfulness or the contemplation of the four postures, the walking is the most famous one. Yeah. When they are walking, it is the movement of the feet, how your left and right feet moving. It is their soul awareness. Their whole awareness is on their feet, the movement of the feet. Of course, there are standard procedures to develop this awareness gradually from the basic levels to the deepest level. So this is the second method of contemplation on the body. Awareness on the postures. First one, awareness on the breathing. Second one, awareness on the postures. Iriyapata. The third one is sampajana. We call it full awareness. From the moment of wake up to the moment of sleeping. All the activities of the body is to be done with awareness. Yeah. It seems hard because of the habitual pattern of the mind. Oh, it's running here and there. How can we be aware of our movement of the body? Walking, sleeping, walking, lying down, eating, drinking, taking a bath, going to work, driving, talking, writing something, reading something, fully aware of them. Fully aware of them. Be mindful in every action. Constantly remembering, bringing back your mind to the present moment. There is no reason that somebody cannot practice on it. But it is not that famous these days. Yeah. Those days, the Buddha's time, those students of the Buddha who were practitioners, who were unenlightened, they were applying this awareness on all of their activities. It is said one monk, one venerable, he was walking and suddenly he stopped. And people thought this monk must have forgotten his road. He must have lost his road. So he is now thinking about the missed path that he should have taken. Of course, when this monk stopped, he stopped not that he lost the road, but his consciousness was lost. His consciousness was gone to past. And he is just doing like a robot, as we are all doing always. We are eating just like a robot, just stuffing our tummies. We are not tasting our food. We are not savoring the delicacy of that delicious food. We are just stuffing the food until it is full. How many actions of ours for a day happens just like a robot? No consciousness is there. So that venerable monk stopped because he knew that his body is walking, but his mind is not there. And he brought back that mind and then again start walking. That's how they practiced. So the third way of Kāyānupassanā is full awareness. In Pali it is called sampajana. Full awareness in all the activities from the daybreak to the sleep at night. Next one is attention to foulness, particular manasikara. Attention to foulness is to attend to all the parts of the body. Now these parts are called as a number, there are 32. Why they are called foulness? Because as I mentioned earlier, when they are separated, they are foul, they are ugly. Yeah. Attimasmin kāye kesa loma naka danta tacho mangsang naharo atte minja Wakkang hadayang yakanang kilomakang pihakang pappasang antang antagunang udariyang karisang pittang semhang pubbo lohitang tedo medo assuasa kelo singhanika lasika muttang mattake mattalunganti. As if from a sack of grains, a sack which contains all sorts of grains. There are dal, there are some peanuts, some other sorts of grains. Buddha separated these grains and showed, this is your body when it is separated. Is there anything beautiful in it? Is there anything pleasant in it? Yeah. So this is the attention to the foulness of the body, in the sense of observing this body, the parts of the body, the organs of the body, the separated and disunited. When you observe them as separated factors, they are particular manasikara. They are causes for you to create some abhorrence, some dislike towards this own body. Not somebody else's body, but our own body. Yeah. That is the fourth one, attention to the foulness, particular manasikara. Then comes the attention to the elements, dhatu manasikara. This body is made out of 4 elements. Yeah. 4 elements and the derived material phenomena out of those 4 elements. What are they? Patavi dhatu, the earth element. Apo dhatu, the element of fluidity. Yeah. Vayo dhatu, the element of wind. And tejo dhatu, the element of heat. This body is moving because of the element of cohesion, the element of fluidity. This body feels solid because of the element of Patavi, the earth element. The blood is circulating and this body is looking solid and established. But in actual sense, this body is an aggregate of four elements: Patavi, Apo, Tejo, Vayu. Solidity, cohesion, heat, and wind. They are the contents of the body. So observing the body as a heap of these elements is dhatu manasikara, attention to the elements. Now there are five methods of Kāyānupassanā. How many more to go? There are 9 objects of meditation when somebody is practicing Kāyānupassanā. Altogether 14. The rest of the 9 is based on 9 charnel ground contemplations. Navasivatika. It is what happened to our body after death. Yeah. Such a disaster happened to us, happened to our body. Of course, these days it is something we never witness. But those days, during the Buddha's time, they were more intelligent than us. They understood this body is just a house that we live. Once we are gone, this house is nothing. No funeral rites, no any kind of rituals they performed for the sake of the body, because the one who was in the body is gone. The carcass is remaining. Sometimes they just threw away to a allocated place where the bodies are thrown, or just threw away to the forest, or they just burnt it. So in those cemeteries, there were dead bodies decaying. Buddha used to send monks who were ordained, newly ordained, to these cemeteries to observe those decaying corpses. So the decaying process of the corpse, separated or numbered as 9. They are, the first one is Uddhumataka. That is the bloated corpse. Vinilaka, the livid corpse. Vipubbaka, the festering corpse. Vichiddaka, the dismembered corpse. Vikāitaka, an eaten corpse. Vikhittaka, a scattered in pieces corpse. Hattavikhittaka, a mutilated and scattered in pieces corpse. Lohitaka, a bloody corpse. Pulavaka, a worm-infested corpse. Attika, the skeleton. So, from the bloated corpse to the skeleton, the 9 stages of decay of a body after death. These 9 stages are the 9 factors or 9 objects for observing, for meditation. So together with these 9 stages of the decaying of the corpse and the other 4 of Ānāpānasati, mindfulness on breathing, contemplation on the 4 postures, Iriyapata, full awareness, Sampajana. I explained to you this. And then the attention to foulness, the Patikula Manasikara, the 32 parts of the body. Then the attention to the elements, Dhatu Manasikara. These 14 are the objects introduced by Buddha, and to be selected, to select one of these and continue to practice upon it as Kāyānupassanā, observing the body as it is, observing the form as it is, for the sake of liberation, for the sake of this entanglement from this continuous process of suffering. The body is one of the strongest, most powerful entanglement that we are all involved in it. As long as we see this body as something beautiful, something pleasant, something so alluring, we will never be able to get rid of this attachment to the body. Right? So, in one way, to get rid of this attachment to the physicality, in another way, to understand the physicality as it is, and in another way, to open the door to the consciousness via this physical body, Buddha introduced Kāyānupassanā.